Hello everyone, it's Omae and welcome back to the brand new video. So we are back for Kizuna 1 versus all team with a more accessible take using none of the usual suspects like the 12th anniversary buggy, Roger Gaban, not using the level limit break Halloween Shanks that everyone is using even though he is perfect. We are using quite a few units that I never use actually. Fuga the Adventurer here, Mr. Fuga Sakuna, as well as the PKA Whitebeard is still such an amazing free-to-play unit. If you have below 10% HP, he's giving a guaranteed 3 immunity, increased damage taken, and a chain boundary. And also he's giving around the barrier against int orbs, right? So amazing unit. And also he is having that former Whitebeard pirate tag. And also he does give us super tandem, which is kind of nice. It's a much lower multiplier, but it's still pretty helpful, right? But then we have K-Dad, who is the MVP here. Now, it's very important that you put K-Dad in that middle left slot because our Roger Pirates, or former Roger Pirates, which Dogstorm is a former Roger Pirate, we do have that amazing tag to allow them to get around the paralysis and bind on the final stage. That's only inflicted to the top row and the middle left unit, so very important. And this unit also gets around the block slots, the damage nullification that's on both bosses, and then also gives us an attack boost. Amazing unit, man. And of course he's slasher, and he also gives us this incredible last tap ability, essentially allowing us to double our other units' damage at level 5. So a lot of people will have this character maxed by now, at least rainbowed, right? So this will make a massive impact. And then we have my boy free-to-play Kizuna Alba. This unit can also be obtained from the Kizuna exchange. And what he's doing is he's giving us a damage reduction utility, a color affinity, but then also gives us access to that amazing support of Jack to give us a second conditional boost for increased damage taken. So we get that increased damage taken through the immunities from Whitebeard, and also make sure you have the Kikinojo support. That will ensure we have below 10% HP and get around or get the full potential from Whitebeard. And also we have Fuga. This unit is important for many reasons. He is giving a versus effect gauge charge and cooldown charge. This allows us to get basically no stall up until level 30, and also gets us the versus effect of Shanks fully charged. But then he's also giving us a 20% HP reduction, which will allow us to get around the stun on the final stage. So one of the variants, if you're below 70% HP when you move into the final stage, you won't get the stun. If you're above 70% moving into the final stage, you're kind of screwed over because your middle left and top row gets binded, and then the bottom row and middle right gets stunned, in which case you cannot act, right? So it's very important that you have that below 70%, which Fuga does help with. He also gives us a full board of tandem orbs for stage 2, which is great since one of the variants, stage 2, has a orb damage reduction for type slots. So getting tandem from Fuga is great. And then since he's using an orb changing special, we get access to Vivi's orb boost from the support ability, right? So this is great. On one of the variants, we have territory enemy on stage 2, and this reduces damage by 66%. So having that combination of matching orbs and an orb boost from Fuga and Vivi is quite important to clear stage 2, of course. We have Atlas and our Tashigi. These units together get around the remaining 3 turns of damage reduction that Alba does not get around by himself. Now, if you do want to make this a lot less bloated on the support side of things, you can use this support or this unit instead of Jack. You can use quick rare recruit Tashigi. She gets around all 6 turns of the damage reduction and gives you the color affinity, but you won't have access to a second conditional boost from Jack support. So keep that in mind. We have the first conditional from our versus Shanks, and then the second one we only get from the Jack support. So if you don't have the Jack support or all these other rare recruits for damage reduction, so Atlas as well as the Tashigi, then instead use this rare recruit Tashigi instead of Alba, and this will get around all the damage reduction. So that will still make the team play the exact same way no matter what you are using. Now, for the ship, -2 cooldown is all you need. It really doesn't matter what utility it has. However, at level 31 and beyond, we do get a 15-turn bind on the final stage, which Roger does not get around entirely as a captain. There's still 2 turns of bind remaining, and it just so happens that we also get paralyzed in that same moment, in which case, if Roger is binded as a captain, his utility for paralysis gets disabled, and you cannot get around it with the support ability. You have to use the Coated Sunny ship. This will instantly get around all 15 turns of the bind, and then Roger's captain effect will also remove the 10 turns of paralysis on our Roger pirate characters. It's a very important detail at level 31 plus. However, this ship does not give cooldown, so you will need to stall 2 turns after level 31 plus, but before then it is going to be a no stall team with the whale sharks. And of course, we are using Roger as a friend captain, so hopefully you have those friend captains, but he will give us an extra 1.65x tickets. So if you are, once again, not using the conditional boost from Jack, you can remove Alba, put on Rare Recruit Quick Tashigi, remove the supports of Atlas as well as Tashigi, strength on Whitebeard, and you will have the team a lot less bloated in terms of support abilities, but you will lose out on the 1.3x conditional from Jack's support. So let's get straight into it. Up until level 31, it will be a no stall team, 1 versus all, and you won't need any particular ship. But beyond that, you will need to use the Coated Sunny, and the team will become 2 turns of stall. So let's get straight into it, starting off with the Reiju Sai variant. Let's just see how this goes. So that territory crew on stage 2, or not territory crew, territory enemy on stage 2, I think, of this variant is extremely annoying, man. I mean, you don't realize how much of a damage reduction that is. 67% or 66%. It is massive. Now, I think, yeah, it's this variant where only our Dex and Int units get cooldowns. So our K-Dad as well as our Whitebeard and Alba, all of them do not get cooldown, which is super annoying, right? Luckily, we have a lot of cooldowns from Roger's captain effect. We also get a turn of cooldown from Fuga, another turn from Shanks' special, and then K-Dad also has a very nice sailor ability to reduce his own CD by 2 turns every time another slasher uses their special. So incredible stuff here. We can use Fuga for the HP cut, and a full board of tandem orbs, which are counted as matching. Orb boost from Vivi. We can also use the superclass of Roger to reduce our HP further and give us a chain additive that will last until the final stage. Since this one has the enemy territory, we are going to be hitting our perfects just to make it a safe clear. But we shouldn't have to hit all of our units. Yeah, Roger kills pretty nicely there. And I didn't bring in a max invested Roger either, so this should be pretty easy for you guys. So the final stage, we get that bind and paralysis, but since our units, Shanks and K-Dad, are former Roger pirates, they get that completely removed on themselves. We also get a full board of block orbs. We get a nice HP cut from Kiku support, giving us safely the 10% and below HP for Whitebeard's special. So now we can use our friend captain Roger special. This will give us an orb boost and also charge our K-Dad. Use K-Dad for an attack boost, a full board of matching orbs, and removing the damage nullification. We can then use Shanks to give us a conditional boost stacking effect, as well as the first conditional. Since we used K-Dad before the Shanks, we don't get that weak attack boost from Atlas, so it's very important that you use K-Dad first. We can then use Alba. Since Roger actually healed us 10,000, we need to use Alba to make sure that we're below 10% again, right? Very important detail. That'll also give us a color affinity, and then on the other variants, removes 3 turns of damage reduction. Jack activates, giving us a increased damage taken conditional boost. We can now use versus effect thanks to Fuga, giving us a base attack boost and enemy weakened status, proccing the first conditional that Shanks provided himself. Then we use Whitebeard. Since we're below 10%, enemy gets increased damage taken through immunities, strengthening the weakened status up to a 1.69x, as well as proccing the second conditional boost from Jack. We additionally get a chain boundary effect, which complements the chain additive from Roger's superclass on stage 2. Now, if you are building this team without all those support abilities and using Tashigi instead of Alba, you could toss a support that gives a tandem orb just to get the super tandem effect. But as I said, it is a very weak super tandem from Whitebeard, so really not necessary. We also want to hit that final tap on K-Dad for that extra damage from the final tap. But either way, this team will be dealing at least 100 billion. I did test it once you fully build up your chain. Roger hits like a truck. Against the versus Psy variant here, it'll be even more. I suggest about 300 billion, since we do have both Fuga and versus Shanks with color affinity. Whereas on the quick variant, it's just Roger with color affinity, right? So that's very, very cool. Very happy with how the team works in the Psy variant, even with that a very annoying enemy territory on stage 2. But now going up against the versus quick variant, this one is a lot easier since all of our units get their cooldowns charged, since it's a class based charge instead of type based. So all of our slashes do get the buffs, the cooldown, the versus effect gauges, all that stuff, right? So once again, Roger is going to be carrying this. Remember, even against the Psy variant, Roger is doing type advantage damage. He has the rainbow buff being the boosted character, right? And if you do have Rayleigh, he does get around damage reduction and gives a color affinity, I'm pretty sure. So you could replace Alba with him pretty nicely, right? So that is a good option if you don't have, or if you do have Rayleigh, right? So once again, we're not stalling. We aren't at level 30 yet, so not necessary. But this stage 2 is a lot easier to kill since there's no enemy territory. We can kind of just one tap with Roger after activating the super tandem. I go Fuga Sukuna, full board of tandem orbs. And I mean, you don't need the VV. You can just hit all of your perfects. It should still work. Remember, Roger is not a cerebral unit, so he's not actually getting that orb boost. So even without it, you should be safe on the damage, I believe. And remember, support abilities do not change with the super evolution. So a 6-star VV will give the exact same support effect. Once again, the exact same pattern as well. I forgot to mention that, but we're using the same specials, the same super classes on stage 2 and on stage 3, so it's the exact same activation order. It makes this team very simple, right? So yeah, get that nice super tandem effect, just hit goods so that you activate the super tandem, and then Roger decimates, man. We do also have a crit buff for crit rate and crit damage thanks to versus Shanks' captain effect. So that's pretty nice, but it's really not making much of a difference. Remember, crit is just not a powerful mechanic in Treasure Cruise whatsoever. Why did I use Roger's special on stage 2? Yeah, no, I'm not sure why I did that, but anyways, another thing to note is that you won't actually see that damage reduction on the final stage against this variant until level 20, right? So only then will it become relevant that you have Alba and the support abilities for damage reduction utility, right? But yeah, sorry about that, but I'm not editing this video, so you might have to put that up as an assist if you've been following one for one. But as I said, it's the exact same activation order. We aren't using Roger until the final stage. My bad, guys, my bad. So we'll do the same thing here, activate goods. Don't waste your time hitting perfects. You just need a good to activate the super tandem. Final stage, Reiju. She only has damage nullification, I think the int orb barrier. 2 turns, which will be removed by versus Whitebeard. Well, not versus White, but free to play Whitebeard. That was the other variant, right? Roger once again. Then K-Dad, my goat. Yeah, K-Dad is just so much better now because he has the former Roger pirate tag and former royalty, because Dogstorm is former royalty. Because of course the Dukedom Kingdom is counted as like a kingdom, right? Anyways, that sounds stupid. Let me use Shanks. Atlas, pretty much useless at this point. Weakened status 3 immunities. Below 10% HP, color affinity, second conditional. And then once again, Whitebeard. And as I said, the damage will be a bit less on this variant since we don't have as much type advantage, but it's still really good damage nevertheless. We also get some resistance down on the enemy, which is kind of nice. So thank you guys for watching. If you have any questions about the team, ask them down below. Once again, I'm sorry for making that mess up and not editing that out, but it is what it is. I got my Roarage in there. That's pretty nice. I need one more and then I can do a multi. Very exciting stuff. Hopefully your Kizuna runs went just as well, and I'm sorry as well that the video is super late. I mean, Kizuna is ending in almost 24 hours, actually 24 hours and 4 minutes from recording. We're about to go into the final days, so it's super late, but at least it's a bit better late than never, right? So I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace, and I'm out.